Hello everyone. In our previous video, we have studied the importance of waterways and also various aspects and components of a particular harbor, and also the requirements of a good harbor. Today we'll study the classification of harbors and also what are the different natural phenomena that affect the construction of harbors, and also we'll study some aspects related to the breakwaters. Now here the harbors are classified into various types. They are classified based on the protection that is needed to be provided to the particular harbors. Also they are provided based on the utility and also based on the type of location where it is constructed. First one that we have here is the classification based on the protection that is needed. Now here site that we select for a particular harbor may be or may not be protected from the storms and the waves that are coming from the oceans. So if we are selecting a site, or if there is a site which is protected naturally from the, or if the landscape of that particular harbor protects the harbor from the storms and the waves, then we call it as a natural harbor. Now if you see the image here, this particular landscape here, or this particular land counters act as breakwaters and help to break the energy of the waves, thus creating a sheltered basin within the particular harbor here. So such a type of harbor, we call it as a natural harbor, wherein the natural land contours act as protection from the waves and the storms. Second type we have is the semi-natural type of harbors. In such a case, the land contours may be providing certain protection to the harbors. However, there may be a need to construct breakwaters for the purpose of breaking the energies of the waves. So in this case, although there is a slight amount of protection that is provided by the natural land contours, we need to create further more facilities for the protection of the harbors. So such a type we call it as a semi-natural type of a harbor. Thirdly, we may have a harbor which is not protected, or the natural land contour may not provide any kind of protection from the waves and the storms. In such a case, we may have to construct various facilities in order to provide a protection against the waves and the storms. Such a type of a harbor, we call it, or we name them as the artificial harbors. Based on the utility, the harbors are further classified into four types. First one, we have the commercial harbor. Secondly, we have the refuge harbor. Thirdly, fishing harbors, and also one more type, which is the military harbor. Now the first one, that is the commercial harbors. The commercial harbors are meant for the purpose of commercial purposes, that is mainly for the purpose of trade, exports and imports. So such a type of a harbor mainly needs to have enough facilities for the purpose of loading and unloading the cargo. Secondly, we have the refuge type of harbors. Now here the refuge type of harbors are provided at certain locations which have a history of having frequent storms. So whenever there is a journey that is to be covered at locations where there may be a possibility of frequent storms, there is a provision of a harbor so that the ships which are traveling can safely come to the nearest available refuge harbor and protect themselves from the effects of the storm. So such a type of a harbor which is meant for the purpose of providing safety to the ships, we call them as a refuge type of a harbor. Then we have the military harbors. Every country, from the point of national security, they select some strategic locations on the coastline wherein they can construct a harbor for the purpose of defense purposes. So such a type of a harbor is what we call as a military harbor. Then we have what we call as the fishing harbors. Fishing harbors are meant for the purpose of carrying out fishing. Most of the such type of harbors will have enough facilities which are required for the fishing operations. Also, there is usually a provision of cold storage in such harbors, so that the fishes can be stored properly. Thirdly, the classification of harbors is also done based on the location. So in that we have four types: ocean harbor, river harbor, canal harbor, and the lake harbor. So now, based on the type of medium that we are medium of water or the source of water that we are using for the for the purpose of transportation, it is classified into four types. So first one, the ocean harbor, which takes ocean as a source of water for the transportation purposes, whereas in case of a river harbor, river is the source of transport or the mode of transport. In case of a canal harbor, it is a canal, it is a source. So, and in case of a lake harbor, the lake is the source of or the mode of the transport. So based on the location where we are constructing, if we are constructing it on a river, we call it as a river harbor. If we construct it on a lake, we call it as a lake harbor. So this is basically mostly based on the location where it is constructed. Now whenever we are going for the planning and construction of a harbor, enormous amount of studies have to be put in order to gather information for the proper selection of the location for the construction of the harbor. Now here, before or in the preliminary stages or in the beginning stages, lots of topographical surveys carried out in order to understand the terrain of that particular region, the depth of water availability in that particular region, how much depth of water is available throughout the year, so that whether the ships can enter into the harbor or not. All such studies is carried out in the beginning, and based on that, a proper site is selected. In that locations, also the soil studies such as are carried out in order to understand the characteristics of the soil and the foundation there. So boring and sounding tests are carried out to know the nature of the particular ground there. Harbor, whether the harbor or the location of the harbor is having a natural protection or not is also studied before selecting the site for the particular harbor. The existence of sea insects are also studied. There may be there are certain sea insects which cause damage to the foundations of the marine structures that are constructed. So a study based on that is also carried out before the site is selected. The problem related to erosion and silting of the coastline also should be carefully studied. Now here what happens is, in most of the harbors, if the site selection is not done properly, the problems of erosion of the coastline and also silting of the silting problems occur in the harbor. So basically what happens in the silting is, the silt particles they travel to the harbor or to the coastline along with the waves, and then they start getting deposited on the coastline, thereby reducing the availability of water depth for the ships to enter. So as and how the silting goes on takes place, then or as and how the silting progresses, the depth of water availability on the coastline or within the harbor goes on reducing. This creates problems to the ships and boats entering into the harbor. For this purpose, again, there has to be a separate operation which we call as the dredging is carried out, wherein silt that is deposited on the shoreline or within the harbor has to be removed out. Again, a dredging operation leads to the extra cost, and which is an extra maintenance cost of the particular harbor. So while selecting the site for the particular harbor, we have to see that no silting, or there is no or very less silting occurring on that particular location, and also very less erosion that is occurring on the coastline. Other studies related to the meteorological phenomena, like the rainfall in that particular region, the frequency of storms, the range of tides, the temperatures, maximum temperature, minimum temperature, what is the wind in direction, how much is the wind intensity, all such things have to be studied before selecting the site for that particular location. So as we see, whenever we select a site for a particular harbor, we need to see that all these studies have to be carried out in detail. Other than that, various other factors are also there which are considered for the selection of the site for the harbors: the availability of the land and also the construction materials. So wherever we are selecting the harbor, the land availability, or there should be enough land availability, and there should be and it should be cheap also. That is one of the important requirements. And in the nearby regions, there should be enough construction materials available for the construction. It should not happen that the site selected is very remote, and then we may have to bring the material that is required for construction from far off locations. So that also we need to take care. Transport and communication facilities should be there. All the harbors should be very well connected with the highways, and also should be having proper communication facilities so that the dispersion of the goods can be done easily. Natural protection from winds and waves, as we have discussed, it is required, and it is preferred that the site which has natural protections can be preferred. Industrial development of the locality should also be there. There should be enough industries and in that particular region, so that the production, the regions of production, if there are there in and around the harbor, these products can be exported to the different countries. The seabed conditions, the bed, subsoil and the foundation conditions of the particular sea are also thoroughly need to be studied. Traffic potentiality of the harbor also has to be studied. There has to be the harbor, or the site that is selected for the harbor, construction of the harbor should attract the traffic, or the should attract the marine traffic to come to that particular harbor. This is also very much required. Other than this, there should be availability of electrical energy, fresh water should be available, the conditions should be favorable, marine conditions should be favorable, and also from the point of defense and strategic locations, the harbor has to be selected properly. So these are some things which we need to take care whenever we are going to select a site for a particular harbor. Next we have the size of the harbor. Once the site is selected, it is very necessary that we decide how much will be the size of that particular harbor. Now basically based on the type of harbor that we are constructing, or based on the type of ships or the vessels that are going to enter into the harbor, the size of the harbor is also affected. Most of the times the size of the harbor mainly depends upon the largest ship that can enter into that particular harbor at any time. Again, based on the size, how much amount of accommodation may be required, how much area or how much basin is required for the purpose of maneuvering, what are the navigation facilities, and adaptability of the natural features are also studied. So the size is basically determined based on all these parameters. Now again, the width of the harbor, which is one of the important components, width of entrance of the harbor, which is one of the important components of the harbor, is decided based on the width of the largest ship or the boat that may enter into the particular harbor. Now usually for small harbors, the width of the entrance is maintained somewhere in the range of 90 meters. Medium harbors may have around 120 to 150 meters, and large harbors may have a width of entrance of somewhere around 150 to 250 meters. Basically, the width of entrance of the harbor is decided based on the width of the ship. The calculation is somewhat like this. Now what we can see here in this image is a cross section of the width of the harbor that can be provided, or width of the entrance of the harbor, I'm sorry. Now if you take B as the width of a particular ship, then we will require around 2 times the width of the ship for the movement of the ship, that is for the maneuvering operation. So the total width that will be requiring for the maneuvering operation is 2 times B. Then there has to be some space that is left as ship clearance on either sides of the particular ship. So we require ship clearance of around B on either sides, B here and B here. Other than that, we need to require to provide a further little more space away from the particular wood, which we call as the bank clearance. So bank clearance on both the sides of the ship also has to be provided. So from the overall image, what we can understand here is that the total width of the entrance has to be minimum 4 times of B plus 2 times of the bank clearance. So this is the minimum width of entrance channel that has to be provided. So basically, as you can see, as the width of the ship goes on increasing, the width of the entrance channel is also going to increase. So that we have to take care of. Secondly, the second important component of a particular harbor, which is the turning basin. The size of the turning basin depends upon the largest ship or the length of the largest ship. If we are considering the length of the largest ship as L, then the the radius of the turning basin, we are going to take it as twice the L. So the radius of the turning basin should be equal to twice the length of the largest ship that is going to enter into the harbor. Thirdly, the wave height within the harbor. Since we are going to provide breakwaters within the particular harbor, so it is necessary that the area within the water waves that are created within the harbor or the height of the waves that are created within the harbors have to be also kept in check. So the height of the waves within the harbor are calculated using this particular equation what is shown here, wherein h is the height of the wave at the entrance, b is the breadth of the entrance, l is the breadth of the harbor at any point p, and d is the distance of the point p from the entrance. So by taking all this, by knowing all these parameters and using this equation, we can understand or we can calculate how much is the probable reduced height of the wave within the harbor. The depth of the harbor or the water depth within the harbor is also decided, can also be designed. So we have this equation here. The depth of the harbor is considered using the, or is calculated using the equation here. So in this equation we are going to consider various parameters which we call as the draft of the ship. Draft of the ship is nothing but the amount or the portion of the ship which is submerged or which is below the surface of the water. So based on the draft of the largest ship and height of the storm waves, we are going to calculate how much will be the depth of the water channel within the harbor. We also, whenever we are going for the construction of the harbors, we also need to understand, or we also need to consider various aspects or various factors that are of the ship. So whenever the harbors are constructed, we need to also study the various components or the characteristics of the ship. Some of the characters which are of prime importance for the construction of harbors include are as follows, as we'll see one by one. First one is the load line. Now you can see here various markings are made this on the ship which are called as the load line. Basically a load line is a line showing the water level to which the ship may be legally loaded. That is, as we go on loading the ship, it starts submerging into the water. So if we submerged it, or if the ship is overloaded, then it will start submerging completely. So there is a particular level up to which the ship may be loaded, which will keep it stable within the waters. So a load line also, which is called as a plimsoll mark, is the line or the marking which indicates the level up to which the ship or the boat can be loaded safely. Secondly, we have something what we call as the displacement load. A displacement load is nothing but the load of the ship and its components when it is fully loaded with cargo. So weight of the ship and its components when it is fully loaded with cargo, we call it as the displacement load. Similarly, we have something what is called as displacement light. Displacement light is just the weight of the ship without any cargo, fuel and the stores. So if we are taking, or if we are noting the weight of the ship without considering the fuel or the stores or any kind of cargo, then we call it as the displacement load. One more important characteristics that we need to study is the dead weight tonnage. It is nothing but the carrying capacity of a ship by weight. That is, we are going to consider here it by weight. So basically dead weight tonnage is nothing but displacement load minus displacement light. We have one more parameter that needs to be understood, which we call as the gross registered tonnage. Here it is nothing but the volume or the area that is there within the which is measured within the ship. That is the measured internal capacity of the ship. It is usually expressed in terms of meter cube. That is nothing but which indicates that it is the volume. Next we have what we call as the draft. Now here you can see in this image, if you consider this as a ship, this particular portion here, the area or the amount or the level by which the ship is or the depth by which the ship is below the water level, we call it as the draft. Now this particular location here, we call it as the keel, and here is the water level. So from the water level to the keel of the particular ship, we call it as the draft. That is nothing but the portion of the ship or the boat which is submerged below the water level. So that is what we call as a draft. Then one more component we have which we call as the ballast. Now here basically ballast is nothing but it is a load that is provided on the ship in order to maintain stability during its journey. Now here the concept goes something like this. Let us consider that we have a ship that is traveling from country A to country B. So let us consider that while leaving from country A, it is completely loaded with cargo, and when it reaches the country B, it is completely unloaded. So what is happening is, since while it is leaving from country A, the ship is completely loaded with cargo, which helps, or the load of the cargo helps proper stability to the ship while it is traveling through the ocean waters. However, after it is unloaded in the country B or at the location B, when it comes back, it is completely empty. So if an empty ship comes into the ocean waters, the movement of the ship will not be stable, and there may be instability which may lead to accidents of the particular ship. So that's why the ships, they have a particular facility or some compartments are there at the bottom which are filled with water, which is called as the ballast water. So these ballast waters they act as counterweights to the particular ship, which maintain the stability of the ships in the harsh ocean waters. So that particular thing, or the weight that is added in the ballast compartment, we call it as the ballast. It may be either water or any other source. You may even add any kind of a weight in order to create a stability for the particular ship. So the ballast is a component, or it may be a water, or it may be any other component which is added in the ballast compartment in order to maintain the stability of the ship. So these are some of the characteristics of the ship which we need to study whenever we are going to consider the construction of a harbor. The next part, the natural phenomena, we will take it in the next lecture.